Have you ever wondered how some of the wealthiest black pastors make their money? Is it just through tithes and offerings? Or is there a bigger business at play? Some have turned their ministries into full-blown empires, generating fortunes that rival top executives. But how exactly do they do it? Stay with us as we dive into the financial empire behind the pulpit and reveal the 10 richest black pastors, starting with one of the most infamous, Pastor Creflo Dollar. If there's one preacher who fully embodies the prosperity gospel, the idea that God wants his people to be rich, yet somehow only the pastor ends up wealthy, it's Creflo Dollar. His very name screams money, and that's exactly what he's built his empire on. Week after week, from the grand stage of World Changers Church International, he tells his followers that if they have enough faith and give enough money, God will bless them financially. But here's the reality. The only one truly getting rich is him. With a multi-million-dollar empire, sprawling luxury homes, private jets, and an impressive fleet of high-end cars, Dollar has turned faith into fortune. Every Sunday, thousands pack into his church, eager to hear his message of abundance. But before the blessings flow, the money must. Dollar preaches that tithing, giving 10% of one's income to the church, is not just encouraged, it's mandatory for financial success. He has even gone as far as telling his congregation that refusing to tithe is the same as robbing God. This guilt-driven message keeps millions pouring into his ministry, funding a lavish lifestyle while many of his followers continue to struggle financially. But perhaps the most shocking moment came when Dollar publicly asked his congregation to donate $65 million for a Gulfstream G650 private jet, one of the most expensive in the world. His justification? He needed it to spread the gospel across the globe. The backlash was immediate. Critics questioned why a pastor needed such an extravagant plane. But rather than backing down, Dollar doubled down, famously saying that if Jesus were on earth today, he wouldn't be riding a donkey. He'd be flying first class. And in the end, he got exactly what he wanted. The money came in, the jet was purchased, and his followers proved once again that they were willing to finance his high-flying lifestyle, no matter the cost. Creflo Dollar isn't just a pastor, he's a business mogul. His empire extends far beyond the pulpit, reaching into real estate, publishing, merchandising, and high-priced events. While his followers are encouraged to wait on God for their financial breakthroughs, Dollar has already secured his, building a fortune that ensures his wealth will last, whether or not donations keep rolling in. His real estate portfolio alone is enough to make a Wall Street investor jealous. He owns multi-million-dollar mansions in Atlanta and New Jersey, living in absolute luxury while many of his congregation members struggle to make ends meet. Even if every offering plate went empty tomorrow, Dollar would still be sitting on a mountain of wealth. But his influence isn't just in property, he's a brand. Dollar has authored books on faith, success, and wealth, all promising the secret to financial blessings. And of course, his devoted followers buy them in droves. He hosts high-priced conferences where people pay hundreds of dollars to learn the so-called biblical principles of wealth building. But the real secret to getting rich? Being the one selling the lessons? On top of that, his ministry pushes DVDs, CDs, and branded merchandise, all advertised as tools to help people grow spiritually and financially. But in reality, they're just another revenue stream, fueling his lavish lifestyle. And that lifestyle is hard to miss. Dollar doesn't just drive. He glides through town in a Rolls-Royce, a Bentley, or a top-tier Mercedes. While he preaches about trusting God for financial success, he's living like a Fortune 500 CEO. And yet his supporters don't question it. Instead, they keep giving, convinced that their own breakthrough is just around the corner. The reason Dollar stays wealthy? He understands human psychology better than most. He knows people want to believe that if they keep giving, their situation will change. That's why he constantly urges them to sow seeds and give money to the church, promising that God will multiply their gifts. And if their financial miracle never comes, well, they just didn't have enough faith. And so the cycle continues. His followers keep hoping, waiting, and giving, while he keeps spending, living, and thriving. Next up is Bishop T.D. Jakes, a name that carries both spiritual influence and massive business success. But make no mistake, he's far more than just a pastor. Jakes is an empire builder. He's an author, filmmaker, real estate developer, and motivational speaker, seamlessly blending faith with financial power. At first glance, he stands apart from the typical prosperity preachers. He doesn't beg for money on stage. He's polished, articulate, and carries himself with the air of a seasoned leader. But behind the scenes, the results are the same. Millions of dollars pouring into his pockets. As the head of the Potter's House, a Dallas megachurch with tens of thousands of members, Jakes commands a massive audience. His sermons aren't just heard in Texas, they're broadcast worldwide, reaching millions. And with that global influence comes global income. Like most megachurch pastors, he has mastered the art of collecting tithes and offerings. His followers give generously, convinced they're supporting the church and its mission. But in reality, a significant portion of that wealth fuels his lavish lifestyle. And just like other prosperity preachers, Jakes justifies it all with the idea that God doesn't want his people to be poor. Yet ironically, those giving the money often remain in financial struggle while he thrives in abundance. Beyond the pulpit, Jakes is a powerhouse in the publishing world. He's one of the most successful Christian authors of all time, with bestsellers that have sold in the millions. Books like Woman, Thou Art Loosed in Instinct, The Power to Unleash Your Inborn Drive have dominated bestseller lists, bringing in millions more in revenue. But that's just the beginning. His empire extends into Hollywood, real estate, and high-priced conferences, proving that faith, when packaged correctly, can be a very profitable business. Then there are the conferences, massive high-energy events like Woman, Thou Art Loosed, and Mega Fest that draw in thousands, each willing to pay hundreds of dollars for a seat. These gatherings aren't just about faith, they're about business. Jakes takes the stage, preaching, motivating, and of course, selling more books, more courses, and more products. His brand is so powerful that even corporate executives and A-list celebrities attend. But let's be real, these events aren't just about spreading the gospel. They're meticulously designed to maximize profits while keeping the audience emotionally invested. Unlike most pastors, Jakes recognized the money-making potential of Hollywood early on. He didn't just stick to the pulpit, he took his message to the big screen. Films like Jumping the Broom, Miracles from Heaven, and Heaven is for Real were all produced under his watch, blending faith-based storytelling with box office success. By stepping into the film industry, Jakes didn't just preach to churchgoers. He reached mainstream audiences and attracted deep-pocketed investors. But his business ventures don't stop there. He's also investing in something even more lucrative, land. Reports suggest he owns a $5 million mansion in Fort Worth, Texas, along with multiple other properties. He's even been involved in real estate development projects aimed at helping the community. But as with many high-profile pastors, the question remains, are these projects truly for the people, or do they primarily boost his own financial portfolio? Now, Jakes may not flaunt his wealth as boldly as Creflo Dollar, but make no mistake, he lives in luxury. He reportedly owns a Rolls-Royce Wraith, a Bentley, and a Mercedes-Benz S-Class. His church has claimed he doesn't own a private jet, but reports suggest he charters them regularly. One thing's for sure, he's not sitting in economy class with his congregation. What makes Jakes truly stand out is his ability to tap into emotions. His sermons don't always feel like traditional church messages. They sound more like high-impact motivational speeches. He tells people they can overcome obstacles, achieve their dreams, and find success. It's a powerful mix of self-help and scripture, a formula that keeps his followers coming back, buying more books, attending more conferences, and giving more money. And while they continue believing, giving, and spending, Jakes continues building, expanding, and growing his fortune. Bishop Eddie Long, the rise, the wealth, and the scandal. Coming in at number 3 is Bishop Eddie Long, a name that once carried immense power in the world of black megachurches. As the leader of New Birth Missionary Baptist Church in Georgia, he built a congregation of over 25,000 loyal followers. He preached about prosperity, success, and faith, convincing his church members that giving to the ministry was the key to unlocking their own financial blessings. But behind the pulpit, Long's reality was very different. While his congregation struggled, he lived in luxury, driving Bentleys and Rolls-Royces, wearing custom-made suits, and flying in private jets. He didn't just preach prosperity, he embodied it. And the money? It flowed straight from the pockets of his devoted followers into his extravagant lifestyle. Long used a clever tactic. He publicly claimed he didn't take a salary from the church. But what he left out was that his wealth was funneled through love offerings, real estate deals, and high-dollar gifts from wealthy donors. He made sure that, even if he wasn't collecting a formal paycheck, he was still raking in millions. For years, he justified his riches with statements like, "Jesus wasn't broke." But let's be real, Jesus didn't live in a mansion or demand private jets to spread the gospel. Then everything came crashing down. Allegations surfaced that Long had engaged in intimate misconduct with multiple young men from his church. They claimed he showered them with expensive gifts, luxurious trips, and promises of mentorship, only for the truth to unravel into one of the biggest scandals in modern church history. The same man who spent years preaching against homosexuality was now accused of preying on his own followers. And when the pressure mounted, Long didn't fight the allegations. He settled out of court, quietly paying millions to make the case disappear. But his reputation, that was beyond repair. Even after his public downfall, Long still had financial security. He had invested in real estate, owned multiple luxury properties, and had business ventures outside of the church. He understood one thing well. Church money could build wealth, but smart investments would keep him rich, even when the congregation stopped giving. His legacy became a cautionary tale of power, money, and deception. While his followers once believed they were sowing seeds for their own financial breakthroughs, it turns out the only person truly reaping the rewards was Bishop Eddie Long himself. Bishop Null Jones, the pastor, the businessman, and the celebrity up next is Bishop Null Jones, a man who isn't just a preacher, but a full-blown celebrity. Leading the City of Refuge Church in Los Angeles, he delivers fiery sermons to thousands every Sunday. But Jones knows something many pastors don't admit. Church isn't just about faith, it's a business, and he's running it like one. Unlike traditional pastors, Bishop Jones has fully embraced the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. His church attracts A-list celebrities, politicians, and high-profile donors, all eager to give generously. And for his everyday followers, they believe that by sowing into his ministry, they'll receive blessings in return. Jones became even more of a household name when he starred in the reality TV show Preachers of LA, a series that pulled back the curtain on the extravagant lives of megachurch pastors. The show showcased their multi-million-dollar homes, luxury cars, and endless streams of cash. And while it may have shocked some, for Jones, it was just another opportunity. More fame, more followers, and more money. Living large is his style. He owns a mansion in Los Angeles, drives a Rolls Royce, and has never been shy about enjoying the finer things in life. He claims his wealth comes from business ventures, not the church. But let's be real, those businesses wouldn't exist without his church connections. His name, built from the pulpit, is the brand that fuels his fortune. Then there's his personal life, another source of controversy. For years, he was in a long-term relationship with Loretta Jones. But despite preaching about love and family values, he avoided marriage. Critics called it hypocritical, but Jones shrugged off the backlash, continuing to live life on his terms. Despite the criticism, Bishop Jones remains one of the wealthiest and most influential pastors today. Whether through his church, books, or TV appearances, one thing is clear. He's not just spreading the gospel, he's building an empire. Reverend Al Sharpton. The preacher, the activist, and the brand coming in at number 5 is Reverend Al Sharpton, a man who isn't just a preacher, but a political force, a media powerhouse, and a businessman who knows how to turn influence into income. Most people recognize him as a civil rights leader, a voice for social justice, and a fixture in American politics. But behind the speeches and activism lies a financial empire built at the intersection of faith, politics, and media. Sharpton's journey started in the church, where he developed a commanding presence that would later make him a national figure. But as his reputation grew, so did his ability to generate wealth. He wasn't just fighting for justice, he was turning his name into a brand. With his rising influence, Sharpton founded the National Action Network, an organization dedicated to fighting racial injustice. On the surface, it seemed like a noble mission. But over the years, financial questions surfaced. Reports from 2014 revealed that while the organization was struggling with debt, Sharpton himself was drawing a six-figure salary. Yet corporate sponsors kept pouring in millions, knowing that aligning with Sharpton meant political connections and media exposure. Sharpton also realized early on that the real money wasn't just in the pulpit, it was in the press. He became a go-to commentator for major news networks, eventually landing his own MSNBC show, Politics Nation. This move not only kept him in the public eye, but also solidified his financial standing. Reverend Al Sharpton mastered the game, leveraging activism, media, and faith into a multi-million-dollar empire. Whether you see him as a champion for justice or a businessman in a preacher's robe, one thing is clear: he knows how to turn influence into income. The business of influence, how Al Sharpton built his empire. Reverend Al Sharpton didn't just fight for civil rights, he turned his influence into a lucrative business. He's written books, delivered high-priced speeches, and made sure that his status as a civil rights leader translated into financial success. His brand is more than just activism, it's a well-oiled machine designed to keep him at the top. Sharpton lives the high life. He's often seen in custom-tailored suits, chauffeured in luxury cars, and jetting off in private planes. He moves in elite circles, rubbing shoulders with politicians, Hollywood A-listers, and billionaires. Even after facing millions in unpaid tax debts, his lavish lifestyle never skipped a beat. That's because his wealth doesn't come from one source. It's a carefully crafted mix of religion, activism, politics, and media. He understands one fundamental truth: influence is power, and power attracts money. People continue to support him because they believe in his mission, but the reality is, Sharpton has turned activism into a multi-million-dollar empire. The millionaire miracle seller, Prophet Shepherd Bushiri. The next pastor on this list will leave you stunned. But before we reveal how he turned faith into a fortune, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more eye-opening content. Coming in at number 6 is Prophet Shepherd Bushiri, a man whose name is just as controversial as his wealth. Originally from Malawi, Bushiri built a religious empire in South Africa with his church, the Enlightened Christian Gathering. He claims to be a prophet, chosen by God to perform miracles. But while his followers struggle to get by, he lives like royalty. Bushiri's biggest source of wealth? Selling miracles. He convinces his congregation that he has divine power, the ability to heal the sick, bring financial blessings, and even raise the dead. Desperate people from all over the world flock to his crusades, hoping for a life-changing breakthrough. But there's a catch. Miracles aren't free. Bushiri sells anointed water, holy oils, and prayer cloths, all marketed as supernatural keys to blessings. His church pulls in millions from believers who think their financial sacrifice will lead to divine rewards. But Bushiri isn't just a preacher, he's a businessman. He owns real estate, luxury hotels, a mining company, and even an airline. While preaching humility, he flies in private jets, drives Rolls-Royces, and lives in multi-million-dollar mansions across Africa. He insists his wealth comes from his businesses, not the church. But if that's true, why do his followers constantly pour money into funding his extravagant lifestyle? Like many mega-church millionaires, Bushiri has been caught up in scandal. South African authorities charged him with fraud and money laundering, accusing him of stealing millions through fake investment schemes. But before he could be arrested, he and his wife fled the country, escaping back to Malawi. Despite all the accusations, his followers remain fiercely loyal, convinced he is a true prophet. Bushiri is living proof that religion can be one of the most profitable businesses in the world. He knows exactly how to use faith to manipulate people. And as long as they keep believing, his bank account will keep growing. Reverend Jasper Williams Jr., the pastor who turned funerals into fortune. The next name on this list might surprise you. But before we dive into how he turned funerals into a money-making empire, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more eye-opening stories. Coming in at number 7 is Reverend Jasper Williams Jr., a man who isn't just a preacher, but a businessman who saw opportunity where others saw grief. For decades, Williams has led Salem Bible Church in Atlanta, Georgia. But what truly made him famous wasn't just his sermons, it was his funeral eulogies. Williams gained national attention in 2018 when he delivered the controversial eulogy at Aretha Franklin's funeral. But by then, he had already built a reputation as the go-to preacher for high-profile funerals. Families across the country sought him out, believing his powerful, emotional speaking style would give their loved ones the send-off they deserved. But there's a price for that kind of service. Williams reportedly charges high fees for funeral sermons, knowing that grieving families are willing to pay for a respected voice to honor their loved ones. And while people see a pastor offering words of comfort, he sees a business opportunity. Beyond funerals, Williams profits from the classic megachurch model. Millions flow into his church every year through tithes and offerings. He preaches generosity to his congregation while enjoying the financial rewards that come with running a thriving religious institution. But the business doesn't stop at the pulpit. Williams also makes money from speaking engagements, gospel albums, and partnerships with funeral homes. His influence in the religious community is undeniable, and he's used it to build a fortune that stretches far beyond the church doors. Reverend Jasper Williams Jr. proves that in the world of faith and finance, even funerals can be a profitable industry. Archbishop Duncan Williams, the pastor who built a global empire. At number 8 on our list is Archbishop Duncan Williams, one of Africa's most wealthy and powerful pastors. Founder of Action Chapel International, Duncan Williams has created a massive religious empire that rakes in millions every year. His church started in Ghana, but today he has branches across the globe, from the US to Europe. Known for his intense prayers and prophetic messages, Duncan Williams has convinced his followers that his prayers can break curses, bring success, and open up financial opportunities. But as with many megachurch pastors, these blessings often come with a catch, a seed offering. Followers are encouraged to donate large sums of money, believing that their financial breakthrough depends on it. But Duncan Williams isn't just relying on the church to fund his fortune. He's also a savvy businessman with investments in real estate, media, and even banking. Thanks to his powerful connections with politicians and business moguls, Duncan Williams has expanded his wealth and influence far beyond the pulpit. And let's just say he's living large. Private jets, luxurious mansions, and a lifestyle that screams billionaire status. Duncan Williams enjoys it all, while continuing to preach about financial blessings to his followers. Despite the controversy surrounding his wealth, he remains unapologetic, preaching prosperity while reaping the benefits of the millions he's earned through his church and business ventures. Pastor Jamal Bryant, the man who blends religion, business, and politics. At number 9, we have Pastor Jamal Bryant, the pastor who's mastered the art of mixing religion, business, and politics. As the head of New Birth Missionary Baptist Church in Atlanta, Georgia, Bryant has made a name for himself not just as a spiritual leader, but also as a social activist. Behind the passionate sermons and fiery political speeches, however, lies a lucrative financial empire that keeps him living in luxury. Bryant knows the power of influence, and he's not shy about using his platform to speak on issues like racial injustice, economic inequality, and political reform. But while his followers believe he's fighting for the community, his bank account tells a different story. He's known for hosting high-ticket conferences, writing books, and encouraging prophetic seed donations, all of which add to his fortune. Thousands of people pack his church, donating generously, convinced that their contributions will lead to blessings. What sets Bryant apart from many other pastors is his embrace of wealth. He doesn't hide his riches. He reportedly earns a 6-figure salary from the church, but that's just the start. His investments extend into real estate, luxury cars, and upscale properties. His lifestyle, designer suits, first-class flights, and exotic vacations. Definitely not the life of someone advocating for the poor. Bryant's career has been anything but scandal-free. From multiple affairs to children born outside of marriage, he's had his share of controversies. But no matter the setbacks, he always manages to bounce back, rebrand, and keep raking in the cash. Reverend Ike, the preacher who made faith a fortune. At number 10, we've got Reverend Ike, a man who was ahead of his time in blending faith with wealth. Before today's pastors were flying around in private jets and living in multi-million-dollar mansions, it was Reverend Ike who first taught the world that faith could make you rich, especially if you were the one preaching it. Reverend Frederick J. Ikerenketter II, better known as Reverend Ike, didn't just talk about prosperity, he lived it. He preached a bold, controversial message that money wasn't the root of all evil, but lack of money was. He convinced his followers that God wanted them to be wealthy and that the more faith they had and the more generously they gave, the more success and riches they would receive. But here's the catch. While he told his congregation they could become rich, Reverend Ike was the one who was actually getting richer. His sermons were filled with bold promises and daring claims, like telling people that poverty was a choice. He wasn't just about preaching, he lived it, driving multiple Rolls-Royce, wearing expensive jewelry, and owning multiple mansions. Reverend Ike didn't just rely on church donations. He was one of the first televangelists to take advantage of the mail order business. He sold everything from prayer cloths to cassette tapes with miracle messages, raking in huge profits. People would send him checks, money orders, and even cash, believing they were buying a piece of his so-called blessings. While his followers struggled to make ends meet, Reverend Ike lived like royalty. He even purchased an old theater in New York and turned it into his church. The message he preached was simple. His wealth was proof that God's blessings were real, and his followers ate it up. Even after his death in 2009, his teachings continued to inspire a new generation of millionaire pastors who would build their own empires. His mantra, "The best thing you can do for the poor is not to be one of them." And for Reverend Ike, that philosophy worked perfectly. His legacy continues as we've uncovered how some of the most influential Black pastors turned faith into fortune, building massive empires on the backs of their devoted followers. But now the big question is, what exactly do they spend all that money on?